They prefer to live in a group. They learn and teach their young. They pass knowledge from generation to generation. They follow traditions. They live by the rules of their own group and ignore those of others. They are capable of empathy and of cruel play. Their greatest weapon is collective intelligence. Who do you think we're talking about? Humans? Great apes? No, these are orcas. And today you'll learn, why do they play with their prey? Why does high intelligence make a species more dangerous? And how is knowledge passed on without writing or speech? The Mystery of Orcas. Most likely you've seen them in marine parks or in the open ocean when they swim closer to the surface. This is an orca. And although we often call them killer whales, they are, in fact, not whales at all. Orcas are the largest members of the dolphin family. They inhabit nearly all of the world's oceans, from the cold waters of the Arctic and Antarctic to temperate and tropical latitudes. And they are equally confident both near coastlines and in the open seas. No surprise there. This is 8 meters, 26 feet, of a living body, about the size of a 3-story building, except it moves. It weighs up to 9 tons, roughly like 2 African elephants, and, as you'd expect, it has massive jaws armed with sharp teeth, up to 10 to 13 centimeters long. Getting intimidating yet? But size alone means nothing without the right shape. Take a look at that black and white design. Striking, isn't it? But if you think it's just colorization and nothing more, think again. Every detail of an orca serves a specific function. But which one? Imagine this. You're a small fish swimming near the surface. But if you look down, the depths below you will be dark. And if an orca approaches from beneath, its black back will simply dissolve into that darkness. It would become part of the water itself. You'll notice it too late. But if it comes from above, it would be impossible not to see it, right? And here's the trap. After all, if you look up, the water at the surface is flooded with light. The white belly of the killer whale merges with it, and the silhouette visually disappears. And when the orca is close, the white patch near its eye gives a misleading impression. It looks as if it's staring off to the side, even though it has already turned toward you to attack. But camouflage is only the beginning. There is another weapon in its arsenal. It's speed. An orca can accelerate to around 60 kilometers per hour, 37 miles per hour, about the average speed of a car, with little noise, not leaving any trace. The acceleration is smooth and precisely controlled, and its powerful tail gives it a boost. And even if you miraculously manage to escape, you'll be caught by another orca, because this giant never acts alone. Orcas live in groups of 5 to 30 individuals, bound by family ties, mothers, calves, sisters, adult males. Many stay together for life. Each individual has a role. Someone leads, someone covers, someone teaches. And it is here that what makes orcas truly intelligent and truly frightening takes shape. Orcas may look like a single species, but different groups behave as if they were different peoples. Each group has its own habits, And the first thing that reveals the difference is food. Some orcas prefer salmon, herring, and cod. For others, the ocean is a hunting ground for marine mammals, seals, sea lions, and sometimes even blue whales. Yes, a pod of orcas can, if it chooses, bring down the largest mammal on Earth. But if they prefer fish, they will simply swim past the seals as if they were nothing more than scenery. And it's not because they don't want to, not because they don't know how. They simply live by different rules. Because orcas possess something often considered uniquely human, culture, and along with it, emotions and bonds that also look suspiciously human. Here is a sad example. Sometimes female orcas carry their dead calves with them for weeks, as if unable to accept the loss. In general, many things in a pod seem non-pragmatic. Orcas may stay close to an injured companion for a long time, matching their speed. Because for them, bonds matter more than efficiency. But intelligence is not always about compassion. Quite the opposite. It can make a species more dangerous, because intelligence creates choice. And if you add to this the fact that orcas have their own language... Wait, what? Yes, orcas communicate with one another constantly. They use dozens of repeating, recognizable signals. Here's what it sounds like. And each group does it differently. Sounds are preserved and passed down within family lines. By a set of signals, you can determine which group an animal belongs to, just as you can identify a person's region by their accent. Nearly every social situation is accompanied by sound. Approaching one another, hunting, playing, conflict, leaving or gathering a group. But how do we know all this? By listening to the ocean. For example, hydrophones operate at Orca Lab Station in Canada, recording orca conversations 24/7. Then comes artificial intelligence. Projects like Orca Sound use neural networks to detect orca signals in ocean noise, distinguish call types, and correlate them with behavior. By the way, on the Orca Sound website, you can listen to orcas in real time. There is also the Orca Spot project, which trains AI to hear orcas among thousands of hours of recordings. And initiatives like the Earth Species Project aim not just to classify sounds, but to move closer to understanding their meaning. But orcas can speak not only in their own language, they also try to speak human. Well, sort of. In one experiment, researchers worked with an orca named Wiki at a marine park in France. She wasn't taught to speak, but rather to imitate. Wiki already understood the principle of imitation. If a trainer gives a gesture, she must repeat what another orca has just done. Normally, these were body movements. For this experiment, trainers used the same gesture, but after sounds instead of movements. At first, Wiki was given sounds she already knew how to pronounce on command. Then they introduced sounds she had never been trained on. Calls of other orcas, the creak of a door, a whistle. After that, human sounds were introduced. Hello, Bye-bye, Amy, 1, 2, and 1, 2, 3. All of them were new to Wiki, but she tried to reproduce them. Now listen.
Hello? Hello? Amy? Amy? 1, 2. 1, 2.
1, 2, 3. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yes, Wiki doesn't reproduce sounds the way a human does. However, researchers compared spectrograms of the original and repeated sounds and tested them on listeners. The conclusion? Wiki produced recognizable, though imperfect, copies of the words. So yes, orcas are capable of reproducing complex sounds and sequences. But you can especially notice it not in marine parks, but where a mistake costs dinner. Out on the hunt in the open ocean. Just take a look. This is one of their most impressive hunting techniques, the wave attack. Orcas line up and synchronously create waves, directing them at a right angle. The goal is to wash a seal or sea lion off an ice floe. Every detail matters here. The distance between bodies, the force of the tail strikes, the pause between waves, and as you can see, it's all carefully calculated. If the prey manages to hold on, they repeat the attack. But what if orcas are hunting fish? In that case, the pod usually surrounds the fish school and compresses it into a tight ball. The fish quickly lose orientation. Then, the orcas stun the prey with powerful tail slaps. And here's how orcas can kill an enormous blue whale. They chase it as a group until the whale begins to lose speed. Once the prey slows down, part of the pod bites and tears at the very parts that make the whale fast: the fins, the tail, the jaw. And then comes the most terrifying part. They prevent the whale from breathing properly by holding its head so the blowhole remains underwater. In essence, they drown the giant. Chilling, isn't it? Sometimes, however, an attack appears slow and almost inefficient, as if the orca is just playing with the prey. For example, off the coast of Argentina, orcas deliberately strand themselves in shallow water or nearly on shore to snatch a seal and sea lion pups. And then they slide back into the water. No, this isn't a mistake. This is how adults teach their young. They go in first, demonstrating the trajectory, speed, and precise moment to enter the wave. The young practice this for years before attempting it on their own. And such coordination and cooperation are not limited to the pod alone. For instance, off the coast of Canada, researchers have documented cases of cooperative hunting between orcas and Pacific white-sided dolphins. And this is very strange for two reasons. First, interspecies cooperation in the wild is rare. Second, these very dolphins often become prey for orcas themselves. And yet, in certain situations, they act together. An astonishing set of abilities. But how are orcas capable of all this? Of course, it comes down to the brain. It weighs on average between 5 and 7 kilograms. For comparison, the human brain weighs about 1.3 kilograms. In other words, an orca's brain is 4 to 5 times larger. But once again, it's not the size that matters, but the structure. The orca cerebral cortex is extremely folded. By the gyrification index, a measure of cortical complexity, orcas surpass most mammals. Areas associated with social behavior, memory, and emotions are especially well developed. Orcas also possess a massive limbic system, the part of the brain responsible for forming bonds, learning, and emotional reactions. And this makes sense. They live in stable communities, recognize one another, and form long-term relationships. Orca intelligence is also evident in how they perform in the mirror test. A mark is placed on a part of the animal's body that cannot be seen without a reflection. If the animal, looking in the mirror, examines that specific mark, it indicates self-recognition. In the early 2000s, similar observations were conducted with orcas in marine parks. They used the mirror deliberately by turning, changing their pose, and presenting the marked area. Yes, orcas understand that they are seeing themselves in the mirror. It's unsettling to admit, but through orcas, nature seems to remind us of something important. Intelligence does not belong to humans alone. It is simply one of its many forms.